We're back then today with another developer stream recap for Last Epoch. This one's a little bit longer than usual because there was a ton of great information covered. So some of the topics that we will cover here today, we've got some information on more bosses, Circle of Fortune changes, there was a question around Diablo 4 plagiarism claims, which is an interesting one, some information on the next chapter coming to the game, that's chapter 10, details on more Endgame, new skills, character customization, which includes changing the gender of your character, idol crafting, which is really nice, and also some information on new uniques and when we can expect them. One question that was asked, and I want to put it out there for everyone to reply in the comments below and let me know what they think about this, I really think it's a hot topic, is in regards to the corruption target you should be aiming for. So Mike said that any builds that can do around about 300 corruption, this is a benchmark of a good build. This is actually something I really strongly agree with. And he said once builds start to hit the 4-digit corruption mark, so that's builds that are doing 1, 2, 3,000 corruption, then it means something isn't actually tuned right with that particular build. Once again, that's something I actually agree with, because working your way all up to 1000 corruption, yes, you get additional bonuses, but it's mind-numbingly boring actually doing that, whereas 300 for me seems a good area to aim for. But watch the section where he actually answers this to get full context and let me know what you think about it.
Hi! Hello. It's me again. Any chance we can have the important loot dropped sound only pop only if it passed the loot filter? If not, what about an additional sound? It's super frustrating having to check loot I didn't need 95% of cases. Yeah, we're still working on having... Short answer is not immediately. There's a possibility we might start adding things like this in, having custom sounds associated with loot filter rules and things like that. I think is there's a lot of room for a lot of positive improvement here that we need to do. I don't have a good example of specifically what we can do right now to improve that. What's the stance on quality of life changes making it through mid-cycle? Or are they only going to be part of cycle start patches? No, I think it's a... There's definitely no rule against it. There's absolutely no rule against like quality of life changes only happening in certain situations. I think most of the things that happen mid-cycle have to have a sense of urgency to them in order to make it into a mid-cycle patch. Often individual quality of life things don't have that same sense of urgency. Definitely not always. There's certain situations where we're like, oh, people are using the system in a certain way and it's causing them to have to click a bajillion extra times. Maybe we should do something to make that feel better right now. And that's a situation where something gets put in early. Early might be the wrong word. Promptly? Quickly? What do you think of D4 now? D4 now coping some of your ideas on season 4. I don't think they straight copied our ideas. Maybe I'm naive, maybe I'm wrong, whatever, doesn't matter. I don't think that there was like some meeting where they sat down and they're like, all right, how do we fix this situation? And oh, like look at that game, what it's doing, let's copy it and something. I don't think that meeting happened. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But I think it's incredibly flattering to think that it may have happened. I think that it's more likely people coming up with similar solutions to the same problems. I'm as someone who likes and plays ARPGs, I'm thrilled that they're adding these things. I think it's a fantastic idea, mostly because we've added in something very similar ourselves. So I think it's a really good idea, and I'm excited to play with it. I mean, there's so many little things that, like, when you're designing a game that you don't even realize are similar systems in other games, where you can get through designing a system and implementing a system, and then like someone points out, hey, this is just like that other thing. Did you ever play that? And you're like, oh my god, I did play that like 20 years ago. What? And you know, situations like that, it's so hard to like keep everything exactly fresh. And, you know, like we try and avoid systems like that and things in situations like that, but I don't think there's any like direct copying that happened. All right, any improvements for COF coming? Finding specific gear in MG versus hoping and praying to RNG doesn't seem to pan out very well. I mean, so yeah, we knew that there was going to be there wasn't going to be a direct like perfect power balance between MG and COF. We knew that was never going to be the case, and we hopefully conveyed that pretty well when we were talking about it leading up to it. We do want to make sure that both of them feel good and feel fun and feel like you're not missing out on something by picking the one you picked. So that's all really important stuff for us. There are some specific targeted changes we have for who where bonuses are, how they're spread out. There's some issues with distribution of power from start to rank 1 to rank 10, how the power you get is distributed between Merchant's Guild and Circle of Fortune. That does feel off, and that hopefully should be more in line. As far as actual like power and how fast you get things, we're not prepared to make any big decisions yet, and like say like, oh, we're making big changes to this or that or the other things like that, but there's definitely room for play in both of those systems, and we will see some changes to both of those. I would say more of those will happen in between cycles than during cycles. All right, what's the story process looking like behind the scenes? When can we expect Chapter 10, do you think? Any leaks? The story is progressing. There is new content being created for the upcoming chapters. The next chapter will not be available in 1.1. The next chapter will be available hopefully quite quickly, but I don't have any specific details for you right now. Sorry. What corruption is the game supposed to be balanced around generally? Okay, this is a fun question. And we actually talked about this in our game design meeting really recently. We don't have an actual answer to this number. We don't have a number that we balance the game around. We have a feeling and a time investment and a sort of general content distribution that we balance it around. But we don't have a fixed number internally that we say, all right, this is going to be a top tier build and it needs to be able to do corruption ABC, or like this is going to be a we just don't split things out like that. Oh my goodness. And but I do think that it's a good idea to have a number that people can say, like, hey, this is a successful build because it manages to like complete corruption 300 or something like that. So I think generally we consider most builds being successful if they can handle in the like 300 corruption range is generally a, hey, that build is successful. And we also don't have a like a nerf line, like a, hey, this corruption's too high, we're gonna nerf it now. There's not a line for that really. I think if you start seeing 4-digit corruption numbers, there's probably something we've made a mistake on. My question would be that 1.1 is about a bossing system, if I understand correctly. What other endgame content are you planning? Anything that you can share? Really, I'm really excited about more endgame, to be honest. So I don't have any big specifics I can share on the details on what 1.1 is going to look like on like other features that are coming into it. The pinnacle endgame system is not strictly just a boss fight. There are other things that go with it. There are tie-ins to the current endgame system. There are there's things that are going to happen that aren't strictly just boss fights. The primary part of it is new boss fights, improved boss mechanics and things like that, and improved boss fight functionality. Hey, beer. And so like there's a lot of focus on that, but yeah, there are some other the system, the pinnacle system does tie into, and we're actually calling it something else. It's not called the pinnacle system. It's got another name that you'll hear about hopefully pretty soon, because it's a sweet name for a system, and we'll be able to reference it by that going forward. But yes, the pinnacle system that we have been talking about is a full system, not just a straight boss fight. So you may be familiar with this guy. This is already in the game. It's pretty neat. It's fine. It's cool. But we've got an improvement, or a refresh, a remodeling, a reskin, a roundup, rework coming for it that I think is pretty sweet looking. So here is the concept art for the Void Thrall rework. Yeah. Do you plan have updates big as PoE does? I mean, that's the goal. Our 1.1 will not be the same size as a full-blown PoE league. We basically started working on 1.1 like the week that 1.0 launched, and even then it was most people are still on bug fixing stuff. Like I'm still working on bug fixing stuff for 1.0. I've been doing a bunch of stuff for 1.1 too, but it's like it's still a split focus. And the content coming from 1.1 is going to be sweet, but it won't be quite as big as what you would expect out of the upcoming PoE League that's happening next week. Which looks awesome, by the way. Maybe I'm not supposed to say something like that, but I don't care. It looks sweet. There's more questions in there. Underperforming builds and stuff. Yeah, we look at them and try to improve them. Is generally what happens. I think that if we're gonna talk about Forge Guard for a second, I think the biggest issue with Forge Guard comes to a like perceived potential versus what's actually happening. And like power aside, it has a lot of really cool effects that if they just worked how players imagine they should work, would be unbelievably cool to play with, and the potentials are limitless. So like what I'm getting at here is, for example, your manifest armor or your forged weapons, these minions that get summoned as copies of your forged weapon, as copies of your weapon. Manifest armor gets your helmet, chest, boots, and gloves as like gear that it's wielding and things like that. And unique effects don't work on those. And I think if more unique effects, like all the unique effects worked, it would be amazing. I think if any of them worked, it would be a big step forward. And I think right now we're not quite delivering on that fantasy that it's promising. I think that's the biggest downside to it right now. Is it's not the power gap, which I'm not suggesting it doesn't have a power gap, but I don't think it's actually the big problem with it right now. I think having the fantasy being better delivered on would help. Are you guys working on improving controller support and playing from the couch? Playing from the couch isn't something we specifically look at right now. As a game mode, a play pattern that we're really designing for. The primary situation that we design for is I'm sitting at my computer and I'm playing. That's like the main way we look at how we're expecting people to be playing. But that doesn't mean we won't expand it to the couch in the future. There's some heavy UI implications for. Ooh, bomb. That's a nice one. There's some UI things that really need to get updated if we're gonna be adding that in, and eventually, as we look forward to the potential of a console release, when we do that, expecting players to play on the couch is going to be the norm of a huge portion of the player base that we are going to have to look at for that. So you know, it's a task that's on the radar. It's something that's we're not actively doing yet, but I can see it becoming very important later. Are there any plans to add new characters or new skills to existing characters, or possibly swap skills? So yes, we're definitely going to be adding new skills to characters. Adding a new skills. Any plans to gender unlock all classes, sir? Not. I don't want to say yes. Giant asterisk. We do have plans for character customization in the future. That will likely come with like body type as one of the customization options. And we don't have any immediate plans to implement this. We know this is a topic that comes up a ton. There's a huge thread on our forums about this. Please go read about it there if you want more information. There's another 80 threads that have been posted all over the place with varying degrees of information. But the short version is yes, eventually. All right, any plans for a crafting system based around idols? Yes. Can you tell me more about that? No. All right, don't know if this has been asked already. Just tuned in. Any plans for adding guilds, clans, praying? Not specifically. Nothing on the list. Nothing on the books right now. I think there's a bigger push for them now than there was 6 months ago. So we'll see what happens, but I don't think anyone's working on it right now. You have plans for new uniques or set items for different classes in the next 1.1. There are more uniques coming in 1.1. I don't think there's any new set items coming in 1.1. I don't know. I don't think so. I'd be surprised. Any plans to have the leaderboard show more than just arena ranks? Yes, definitely. Any chance on something like a combat log so I can get a better sense of why I died? Probably not. We've considered and would love to do a full combat log. There's a couple issues with it. It's one of those things that I feel like in a year from now, someone on the team is going to be like, I figured it out. I know how to make it work. And it'll just like get slapped in all of a sudden. But like right now, it's not happening right now. All right. Will certain cycle features be added to the base game after a cycle is over if it were well received? Well, initially, 1.1 will come immediately to the base game. So it'll happen before the cycle is over. But yeah, that's the plan. We do design any cycle content to be included in the base game as well. Any plans to improve COF for endgame players, making it more generous? It's just essentially extremely hard to find exactly what you're looking for, mostly for exalted double or good T7s. I mean, the type of gear that you're talking about is like extremely high-end gear that should be very difficult to get. So, you know, like when I see a question like this, it kind of boils down to like, can you buff drops? Maybe, but probably not. On that subject, whatever that subject was, any plans on removing the adaptive damage reduction mechanic on bosses? So, technically the answer to this question is yes. But what the adaptive boss damage reduction was trying to achieve is really important, and we won't remove it without replacing it with something else that achieves that goal properly. So you're going to be designing one or more multiple pinnacle bosses for next major patch. Well, there's more than one boss fight coming in the next patch. but I don't know if you can have more than one, like, this is an English question that I'll squirm about for a little bit, but like, I don't know if it's possible to have multiple pinnacle fights. Like isn't the definition of pinnacle the top? Like the pinnacle fight? Like isn't it like just by definition there's only ever one of them? Right? Maybe I'm thinking about this too literally, but there are multiple fights, multiple new boss fights you'll have access to, but the pinnacle boss fight that we're adding is the one because it's the pinnacle. What are the current balance thoughts so far for defenses, namely between ward and ward/endurance builds? I think that ward has too much maximum potential. Is the short answer there.